Hey guys, it's Vandy Azul, back again with the Card Fight Vanguard deck profile, so I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and also sorry. This time we're covering DZ Set 3, the Silhouette for Brandt. So I haven't touched Silhouette in a while, but the second I saw Mythiarch's getting support, I knew for a fact that Silhouette would get support. I didn't think it'd be the week after, but fair enough. My thing is I'm recording this the day after they come out, so I'm basically doing what I did with Lukier and doing like the one match of testing and then praying that I got a good grip of it. Thankfully, I remember Silhouette enough and struggling with it and then learning how to play it decently enough to understand more or less that this deck does actually work the way it is. So going to start out and see what we got, because honestly this deck is a lot more fun and entertaining for me compared to old Silhouette, and I rarely complain about decks, or like I will rarely give my negative opinion about decks. Yeah, so that was one of those ones I think I was like fully honest with that I did not like originally, but now I like it. So first today we have our Energy Generator. It's our ride deck crest. You remember ride deck crest and your ride deck. Auto ride deck, when you ride, put this card into your crest zone. If it was like energy charge 3, continues to be up to 10 energies, and auto begin your ride phase, energy charge 3, and then after once per turn, energy about 7 to draw a card. All around solid, it's like a free 3 energy and every turn, and since only one unit, actually no units in this deck actually take up energy, so you can just feel free to use that as much as you want to get the draw. And again, it's a free 3 energy every turn, so it builds up pretty quickly, and if you do end up taking energy generator cards or energy user cards, most of them only take energy blast of 3, so you don't have to worry too much about that. Around the ride deck crest is a nice card to have in your ride deck, so obviously we're going to have it here. And of course, we have our starter in Silhouette Man. Grades will boost 5k show, 6k base, auto, run upon for a second, draw a card, standard starter, nothing special to free draw if you go second. You can really make this any starter. Actually, you can't make this any starter you want, because the grade 1 does specifically require Silhouette Man to be in the soul or to be the one he rides upon. So you have to run Silhouette Man as a ride starter, but at the same time, it is a cool looking card, so I'll give it the 1 up for that. Then we have our Overtrigger Star Dragon DD of Infinitude Brandt. Grades will boost, 50k shield, 5k power, Overtrigger in your deck. When revealed as trigger with a card, draw a card, choose one units, and guess what's moving for the turn. And revealed during your draft check, activate its dispatch, which you get to double the power and critical value for units until the end of the turn, and increase to double its power and critical when activated. All around, pretty solid, like guaranteed if you damage check with a draft check this, someone's getting a million to draw, so either someone's not getting hit that turn or someone is hitting that turn, unless your opponent has a PG ready. But also, the effect that pretty much everyone that has played against Gravidia, or at least some form of Brandt, probably has PTSD from, the double power and critical. When you are doing this, it's so annoying, because the best part about this is, the way this deck works, you can just stack that onto technically the Vanguard, and then put that on a rear guard that still has the double crit, and is going to beat the crap out of your opponent because of how the cards are worded. All around, Breath is a very powerful overtrigger. You can really run any overtrigger you want. You can run Vulner from a multi-attack consistency. You can run Sporia for recycling or any of the 2 new overtriggers, but I prefer Elder Breath because A, it's the nation overtrigger, but also if you sack Elder Breath on the turns you're going all out on the offense, or just going on the offense in general, you're most likely going to win that game if you sack it that turn, because yeah, Elder Breath giving everything double crit and at least one of them plus 1 million, or technically 2 million, is not something to laugh at, so 1 of Elder Breath. Then we have our normal triggers, 2 of Transforming, Heavy Machinery, Heavy Custodian, Grids of Boost, 50k shield, 5k power. If you've been watching the last few deck profiles, or you've watched the ones after this, you know for a fact the reason why this is here, but I'll say it again. For some reason in set 3, I had a weird fascination with making every deck have 2 fronts, 2 draws. I don't know why. Don't ask me this question. But either way, they'll have it Custodian as a nice front trigger. You can really run any front trigger you want. If you're going to do this, be smart and run the Cardinal Draco one that's 20k shield. I only run this one because I don't like to mix archetypes unless it's a full mix, so 2 Heavy Custodian. Then we have 2 copies of Armor Light Connector. Grades of Boost, 5k shield, 4k base. Can choose Guard plus Vanguard to get their good plus 5 shield. You know, so draw triggers, so always increase the hand. In a deck that has a lot of specific pieces it wants to have, being able to increase your hand is nice. And it's a 10k shield, which is also helpful because for some reason this deck runs into guarding problems, which you wouldn't think it would when it deck thins a lot for triggers, and then it also has a bunch of interceptors on board. But no, screw me. I don't see triggers, but in the decks that don't deck thin at all proceed to see double back-to-back, and I'm just questioning why. I deck thin, they don't. Why am I not pulling triggers? Either way, though, 2 of them, like Armlet Connector, it's a nice draw to have. I honestly do think this deck only needs 2 draws, though, because I don't really see much of a problem with it, but A, it is what it is. Then we have our 7 crits, 3 copies of Star Aggression Dragon, so a boost, 50k show, 5k power. This can really be any crit you want. Just to make a Star Aggression Dragon because, I don't know, it seems to be like the vanilla trigger I shove into all of my Brandt decks, but again, it can be any crit you want. And then we have 4 copies of Patrol Robo Decker Cop, grades of boost, 50k show, 4k power, critical trigger, auto rear guard, and now the boost to put this unit soul true for music, 2k for the turn. Okay, cool. Free 2k. That is not going to make a difference at the end of the day, but being able to go to soul might, especially if you're playing heavily aggressively in the game and you are constantly going through all your soul, then yeah, Decker Cop would be a nice addition to it. So 7 crits is nice for pressure, especially in a deck where you can put an additional pressure on your opponent's Vanguard by having multi-attack. That also gets the benefits from front triggers, so 7 crits in total. Then we have 4 heals and Alterate Spirit Dragon, Grids of Boost, 50k show, 5k power. This can really be any who you want. I just used to make it Spirit Dragon because, It's, again, like Star Aggression, kind of like the vanilla trick I put into all of my Brancate decks. You can really use counter heals if you want to. I just don't like counter heals too much because I feel like their fluctuating 10 to 25k shield is not worth it. But if you want to run the counter heals, go ahead. Might have the consistent 15k shield over them. Then move on to our grade 1s. First up, we have 3 copies of Repair Robo Ronnie. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. Auto and placed on rearguard circle, soul boss 1, check the top 7. Show up to 2 cards with armed arms and their different card names from among them. Reveal them, choose one of the revealed cards, put it to your hand, and then discard the other, and then shuffle your deck. And then auto rearguard, when your grade 3 grade of Vanguard Soul and its card name attacks into anything. Soul boss 1, retire this unit until the end of the battle. When your opponent call cards in the guard circle, it's called 2 more at the same time. Okay, this ability is amazing, and the only reason he's not at 4 is because I like the other grade 1 a lot better. Because being able to, on place, regardless of a grade either player is at, check the top 7 for 2 of your 3 main cards, yeet one of them into the drop zone, add the other one to hand, and if you're on grade 2, instigate a grade 2 rush is great. But then also the fact that it now gives the Vanguard the ability, regardless if it's attacking a grade 2 or a grade 3, or it doesn't even have to be a Vanguard that attacks, it can just be anything, but the ability to force out your opponent to guard 2 or more at the same time. And where with our new armed arms that gives an extra critical to the Vanguard, that is a very nice ability to have. All around, Ronnie is a very solid grade 1. I do like him a lot, and he honestly is a worthy 4-up. Don't get me wrong. The only reason he's not is because I like Rodney over here a lot better, but honestly, if you want to tech Ronnie up to 4 and then Rodney down to 3, it is completely understandable. The deck seems to have an excess amount of soul, so you can definitely afford to do it, and it's just a good grade 1 to have, so 3 of. Then we have 4 copies of Bustling Mechanic Rodney. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, contains rear guard. If your Vanguard attached this turn, it gets plus 1000 power. Attached is pretty much your armed arms going to Vanguard circle. And then auto back or rear guard circle. At the end of battle, your Vanguard still wins card name attack to grade 3 or greater Vanguard. If your former has no rear guard, soul boss 1 stand this unit. All around, pretty solid. You know, it's an 18k booster the second you attach. Sadly, your Vanguard only attaches during its attack, meaning you are not going to be able to add that 10k till after the Vanguard attacks or during the Vanguard attack, but still 18k boost nonetheless. And then being able to stand himself in a deck that can multi-attack is pretty solid. I do like Rodney a lot. He only costs 1 soul, so combined with this arm over here, he is very consistent. So I do like him to have him at 4. But again, if you want to up Randy to 4 and down Rodney to 3 because Randy can give you more consistency, I can totally understand that. But I like Rodney more for the numbers, so 4 of. Then we have 4 copies of our PG in Planet Wall Dragon. Grade 1 boost is 0 souls. Okay, base contains Sentinel. If you have 4 Sentinels in deck and put on guard circle, choose one mutes. It cannot be hit in the battle. And if your hand is 2 or more cards in it, choose a card from your hand's card standard PG. Nothing too special about it. Basically means that this only one of the cards is in your hand with a pistol on guard circle. You don't have to discard what's great because that means you can be as aggressive as you want in the early game. So you know when your opponent eventually counterattacks you for literally spamming the hell out of all of your units because that's what you're supposed to do whenever you play a deck that's built by me. When your opponent eventually counterattacks you, you throw it on the PG, you're safe. All around Planet Wall is a nice PG to have, especially if you have low hand cards, so you can nullify the attack without having to discard a card. You can run Violate Dragon. I think it's Violate Dragon. I always forget which PGs belong to which between Darkface and Brancate because their names, I don't know why. For me, I always confuse like Rescue and Hate for being a Brancate one, and I think it's Violate Dragon that's a Brancate one, but I was confused for being Darkface. I don't know why I get those two confused so consistently, but I'm pretty sure Violate Dragon or what's the other one called? The new one that's a robot. You can run any of those PGs. I just chose Planet Wall because it came out closer to the time of Silhouette's release. But again, any of them work because they'll have the exact same skill, so 4 of. Then move on to our last grade 1 in the deck, 1 of in the right deck, none in the main deck. Well, it's the last unit card, grade 1, and that is Garter Silhouette. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, auto when placed on rear, or not on rear, by placed by riding from Silhouette Man. Search your deck for up to 1 Machinery's Factory, reveal, put it to your hand, shuffle your deck. All around pretty solid, you know, it's just a free order search. Granted, it has to be very specific, so they can't ever support Silhouette with a different order, but hey, being able to deck thin for free orders by riding is great, so I do like its skill a lot. I wish there was a little bit more to it, but it is what it is, so we'll give it a 1 of in the ride deck, you know, none of in the main deck. And the reason why it's still here is because this order is actually really nice, and that is Machinery's Factory. Grade 1, normal order, not normal order, set order, my bad. Act order zone, rest this card, check the top 7, choose up to 1 armed arms from among them, reveal it, and put it to your hand if your drop zone has the same card name as that card. So, say, for example, you flip over Armed Arms Drill, and you have a copy of Drill in the drop zone, then you would add Drill to your hand. Or if you do not have a copy of it in there, then you discard it instead. So if you didn't have a copy of Drill in drop zone, you discard Drill. And the important thing is if you put a card into your hand, you shove this to soul and shuffle the deck. Again, where the deck's non-existent soul problem comes from, because there are so many cards in here that soul charge, even with all the soul blocks. Like, unless you are spanning Ronnie 24/7, you are not going to have a soul problem in this deck, especially if you hit any of your Machinery Factories outside of the one you search from this. And then the other skills, Act Order Zone. If you have a Great Third Grade of Vanguard Soul and its card name, shove this card soul to 2 cards with armed arm in their different different card from your drop zone and call them to open rearguard circles. All-around Machinery's Factory is pretty solid because while it doesn't allow you to call over closed rearguard circles, stuff that already has units on them, it does get you free soul regardless of what skill you use, and it can come back against retired decks by, getting your rearguards back to open rearguard circles. More importantly, if you use your arms to intercept last turn, because maybe you're not playing against retired deck, but use them to intercept last turn on guarding, you can send Machinery Factories to Soul to get them right back. Also, again, being able to check the top 7 for literally any arms and either add it to hand or send it to drop is nice, because even if it's only deck thinning out 1 card, it's still deck thinning out 1 card, which increases your chance of seeing triggers by 1 card, increases your chance of seeing Personarized by 1 card, unless you're me, and then your Personarized all end up at damage zone, but we don't talk about that. Either way, though, Machinery's Factory is a very solid set order to have, and it does it all for free, so what's not about it, it's an easy 4 of. Then we have 4 copies of, you can replace this for Bowl Mine if you want. If you do, you will not have a CB problem at all. I know, I'm fully aware of that. There's a reason why I choose to run this, though, and that is Refabulous Dock. Grade 2, set order. After set order is played, put it into your order zone, play it by counterbalancing 1. Auto, when it's put into the order zone, you auto draw a card, and then continues order zone, all your grade 2 rear guards get boost. The reason why this is here is because, at least with the way I play, there will be a time where my entire board turns into an alt-mile board. If you don't know what I mean by that, I mean the entire board outside of the Vanguard will be all grade 2s. It is possible. It has happened before. That typically happens when I brick and I don't see either of these 2 and I just open with a bunch of triggers. But Refabulous Dock is here for those reasons, but also in case I don't pull both of these, or I don't pull a full back row for these guys, because a lot of times I will end up with at least 1 grade 2 in the back row anyways, and that's what this is here for. Now, obviously, if you replace this with Bowl Mine, then technically speaking, that wouldn't be the case, because I don't have just Bowl Mine to replace that outright, but I'm giving all my grade 2s boost and making them all 20k swingers definitely makes a difference, at least on the grade 2 turns, especially while my opponents at grade 2 because they're at a 10k base compared to my 20k swingers. I much rather have them for that. And not to mention that it helps increase the hand by a draw, which again could make the difference. I mean, you're deck fitting with these, and yeah, this draw can make you draw a trigger, but it could also make you draw a normal unit, or it can make you draw a Persona Ride. All around, it's a nice card to have. It's a tech option. Run Bold Mine if you don't want to have CB, because I know that this is the difference between me having a CB problem and me not having a CB problem, but I would much rather have the aggro than the consistency. I've made that very clear, like any deck profile I will make, that I'm a fan of the aggro, and that's what I'm going for. Just a bunch of columns of 20k swings, 25k swings, whatever. You're not going to get the same thing if you have Bulb of Mine. Granted, if you're boosting with very specific units, you're going to hit the magic number anyways, but I'm aiming for those turns where Bulb of Mine is not going to be the thing that makes that difference in terms of numbers, aka the grade 2 turns and very specific grade 3 turns. So 4 for Fabulous Dock, again, run Bulb of Mine, be smart, but if you are a big fan of the aggro like I am, you run this card because it's good for the boost. Then we move on to our normal unit grade 2s. 4 copies of our new one, Armed Arms Drill. This card is amazing, and I think it had a soul problem before. I think this deck had a soul problem before, and if it did, then Drill single-handedly fixed it. Grade 2, intercept, 5k shield, 10k base. The drill that will pierce the heavens. That's the Gurren Lagann reference off. Anyways, auto Vanguard or rear guard when you attacks on anything. Put a card with armed arms in its card name from your drop zone to your soul, and perform one of the following based on the circle this unit is on. If it's on the Vanguard circle, if there are 2 or more units attached to this unit, it gets an extra crit for the battle. Rear guard circle, it gets 5k for the battle. So 15k swing or an extra critical on a double crit Vanguard, which is pretty solid, or again, it's a 15k swing, and either way, neither of those abilities are once per turn. So God forbid Bushy gave Silhouette away to restand the Vanguard. Suddenly they have double crit boy over here and the potential to do this bastard twice, but also in the fact of, free 5k as well, so you can do one when it swings the first time, then when you attach it with the Vanguard, use the crit skill, and then finally, you move it to rear guard circle, you boost it, and then you use the skill again to add 5k. And the main thing is, for the first one, because the Vanguard requires a Soul Blast to, equip the cards. For the Drill, you put any armed into your Soul. Then for the Vanguard, you Soul Blast out the arm, equip the Drill, and then for the extra crit, you just put that card right back, and then hopefully you have another one in drop zone, so you can get the extra 5k. So technically speaking, to pull this card's ability off 3 times, you only need 2 arms in drop zone, which is pretty solid. All-around Drill makes for a very good card. The 5k, I wish it was 10 or even 15. I know 15 would be pushing it, but I wish it was 10. But considering the fact that it can get an extra crit and it literally just gives you a free soul, I'm willing to allow the 5 on this one. So 4 of Drill, very solid grade 2. I love it a lot, and I think it's a great addition to the deck. Then we have 4 copies of Armed Arms L. So the arm I use the least and is actively the booster for revival of stock over here. So grade 2, 5k shield, intercept, 10k base, auto vanguard, or rear guard once you attacks into a grade 3 grade vanguard. If your vanguard silhouette is card, card boss one draw a card. Okay. The reason why I don't use one as often is, again, like the reason why this is here over Bulb of Mine, I value the aggro much more than I value the consistency. I will use the draw if I don't hit either of these two. Like if one of them's missing, then I will, yes, use the draw skill. But also because it requires the opponent to be at grade 3, while this doesn't require the opponent to be at any grade specifically, and this just requires you to be at grade 3. So L I use the least, especially because I want to be at grade 3 first to get the most aggro out I can. So take that as you will. The draw, don't get me wrong, is nice, but when the deck does have a CB problem, when push comes to shove, I'm obviously going to use these two because one kills a rear guard, one gives numbers, and then this gives me a draw anyways. Again, if you run Bubble Mine over this, then yeah, okay, this card will be you see more consistently, but it's a good card, don't get me wrong. I just don't use it because it doesn't fit how I play. But it is a nice arms to have because, again, it is a target for this. So it does send it to drop zone, so it is deck thinning. And also it is a free grade 2 on rear guard, boost, and worst case scenario, it is another arm you can equip, so 4 of. Then we have 4 copies of Armed Arms R, grade 2 intercept 5k shield, 10k base, auto vanguard, or rear guard when it attacks into a vanguard. If you have a grade 3 or greater vanguard, so wins carding, card boss, one choose an opponent's grade 2 or greater rear guard, kill it. And this video you get plus power for that battle. R arm pretty solid, kills an opponent's rear guard, that's an interceptor, 15k swing. Obviously, it's your first swing of the turn, so you can make sure you at least get rid of one of your opponent's guarding powers. Either way, though, Armed Arms R is a very solid grade 2 to have. And again, comparatively, the draw skill is nice, especially if you're trying to stall out for games, but I much rather have the rear guard kill because when I restand the Vanguard, or not restand the Vanguard, when I swing with the Vanguard and get the extra kill from drill, I'm going to want to be able to, you know, make sure my opponent has the least amount of guard as possible to work with, especially because I would have had to guard drill hopefully from hand last turn. And, you know, if I have extra CB for R as well, that's also nice. So that's the other thing I like about drill too, the fact that it doesn't use CB, it literally just gets you soul as a resource, which is nice. So Armed Arms R is a good grade 2 card. 4 of, again, it's another arms you can send to drop. So even if you don't use it often, like how I don't use L often, you can still use it as another arms target. And again, it's just a nice card to have, so 4 of. Then move on to our last grade 2 in the deck, one of in the rad deck and on the main deck of Caesar Silhouette. Grade 2 intercept 5k shield, 10k base, auto revolt upon by Gigant Arm Silhouette. Choose up to 2 cards with armed arms with a different card from your drop zone. Call to open rear guard circles. I don't know why they have to be specifically open rear guard circles, but you know what? It's nice because, again, like Machinery's Factory, if you're playing against a board nuke deck, well, free rear guards back, or you use them to intercept, free rear guards back, which is why I'm glad that it's not when it's placed and rather when it's rode upon, so you have ways to set up for your grade 3 turn. And again, the aggro here is nice, and kind of like Flabbage Dock is here, you know, to set up your board. All around, Caesar, as much as I don't like his, I didn't originally like his skill, him being a free call 2 cards that probably were either ride deck fodder or rear guard intercept fodder that also early rushed while this card was on the Vanguard circle makes for a really good grade 2. So I like him as a 1 of in the ride deck. Obviously not in the main deck because he has no rear guard skill, but he's a nice 1 of in the ride deck. And then finally, we have our last card in the deck, 3 of in the main deck, 1 of in the ride deck of Gigant Arm Silhouette. Grade 3, 200% right, 13k base, auto Vanguard, once per turn at the beginning of your attack step. So I literally had to look up the rulings on what the attack step was because I thought it meant like the full battle phase. So the attack step is when your unit declares the attack. So basically, you resting Silhouette would be the attack step. So like right before you rested, that would be the beginning. So anyway, Soul Blast a card, Soul Blast out the arms you set for drill, and then you choose up to 2 of your rear guards with armed arms and each of their different card names attached them to this unit. They can be back row ones. They don't have to be front row ones. They work better as front row ones, but they don't have to be front row ones. Just making that point clear. And then move the attaching units to the Vanguard circle as stand. They cannot attack, and their attached power. This unit gets the attached unit's power and abilities continuously, and then move to rear guard circle at rest at the end of the turn. So say, for example, you Soul Blast 1 and you arm Drill and R. So they're going to, not only are their respective 10Ks going to add up to Silhouette, so he'll have a total of 33K, but he'll also have the ability to, you know, Counter Blast 1, kill an opponent's grade 2 or greater rear guard on swing and get 5,000 power, but also get the extra crit from Armed Arms Drill, which is all around a pretty solid skill. I think it's very interesting that he can activate multiple units at once, and it does give the deck some variety where if you want to put these as your grade 2 ride deck cards, you can. Technically speaking, you can't put these as your grade 2 ride deck cards because, you know, they require you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard Soul and the card names or attack a grade 3 or greater. So, you know, it's not going to happen. But Drill you can, since Drill only requires an armed arm and drop zone. And technically speaking, okay, granted, it's not going to get the crit, but, you know, it's a possibility just to get Soul Charge. Either way, though, good skill. And then Auto Vanguard, I think about the attack to anything for free to up to 1 of your units that's attached to this card and move it to an open rear guard circle as stand. It is no longer attached after being moved. Here's the important thing to know. They say move. What move means, because it's not bouncing or placing or replacing or something like that, it's moving. Meaning, say for example, you pulled a front trigger, and I forgot to do this in one of my games, but say for example, you pulled a front trigger while this rear guard was armed to silhouette, right? And then you use silhouette skill to call this card to rear guard. Even though in a normal case, the front trigger would not affect the card that was newly placed on that rear guard circle, because drill was still on the board and just moved to a different rear guard circle, it would still get the numbers. So the important part to note is, you can do that, and to my understanding, someone correct me if I'm wrong on this, if you drive check any other trigger, like say for example you drive check a crit, you can give the effects to like the one you're gonna call. Like if you give a crit to the one you're gonna call, I don't think it's gonna do double the damage, or it's not gonna give the extra damage to silhouette, it's gonna give it to the one you picked. But if you give the 10k, it'll still go to silhouette, but it will also go to the armor as well. But I'm pretty sure you would have to give the crit to silhouette. Someone correct me on that if I'm wrong. Either way, though, very good skill, allows for free multi-attack, and also gets really good numbers if you set it up right. Because also Persona Ride, to my understanding, would stack on those, meaning, 23 plus 20 plus 20, that's 63, and this is going to make it 68, so yeah, pretty good. Now, if only I would hit my Persona Rides and not damage check them, but you know what, we work with what we got. Either way, though, that's it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed. All around, this deck is actually fun to play, and I used to not like this deck a lot, but, being able to have a full board of grade 2s and rush from any moment of the game the second I get to grade 2, have a consistent searcher that deck thins, and also gets me rear guards literally by just getting a soul card as well, having a restanding booster and a card that pours out 2 or more cards to guard, especially on a Vanguard that could have an extra crit thanks to this card. Also another card that soul charges, a draw if I really need it, but also a rear guard killer, and like probably one of the best grade 3s ever, just because his skill is free and the other one is literally supported by everything else. All around makes the deck pretty solid. So without further ado, I'm going to end this one here. I hope you all enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, join us on Twitch, and I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to set up your Vanguards.